Right. So, welcome to NDSU's Admitted Students series on residence life and dining. I am Michaela. I'm an admission counselor at North Dakota State. So, I work with incoming students, helping them through the college search process. We have Jason here with us to go through some information on residence life and housing. So we'll listen to his presentation and then we'll have questions at the end. So Jason, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and then get started.
Perfect, will do. Welcome, thanks for joining us, whether you're joining us tonight as we're going through these things or whether you're watching the recording later. It's always a good time for me when I get to visit and chat with new incoming students and or their family members. I was telling Michaela earlier, I've been doing this a long time. I've been at NDSU for 18 years now, closing in on 19. And every year, it's always a good time to just share what I know about residence life and to let students know and parents know, family members, that sort of thing, let them know what they can expect while they are with us here on campus. So I will try to keep things brief tonight. I am covering both residence life for the first portion, and then dining for the second portion. And then we'll have a little bit of time at the end if there are any questions or anything that you just feel like you didn't get an answer to, things you want to know. Anything's fair game. We'll have some time. You're welcome to ask some questions at the end. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about residence life. I like to start out by sharing what we call the residence life experience. I think a lot of times people hear residence life or they hear housing and they simply think of putting a head in a bed, right? Having a place to sleep. But we believe that we offer so much more than that. So what we call the residence life experience, we say it's more than just a bed. Residence life provides a place to grow, to learn and connect, to explore, and to make an impact. And so we tell students that you create the experience that you want. And we even ask students, what do you want your residence life experience to be? And the reason that we do that is because if you think about two different students that move in at the same time on the same day when we open in the fall, and one student moves in, leaves her door open all the time, goes up and down the hallway and meets a lot of new people, joins different study groups, joins some of the clubs and organizations, gets involved in hall government. Her experience in residence life is going to be much different than a person who moves in on the same day to the same building, but closes and locks the door, stays on the inside of that closed and locked door, only ventures out once in a while to run to the dining center and back, doesn't get involved, doesn't meet others, doesn't connect well with others. Their experiences are going to be very different. And so we ask students, what will your res life experience be? So even now, knowing that it will be coming next fall, this is a great opportunity to be thinking about what that experience will look like for you. As far as housing options, we have a wide variety. We have some what we call traditional or some of our low-rise residence halls. So they're all just 3 stories, which to us is a low-rise. The ones you see listed there on the screen, that includes Bergham and Churchill, Dinan, Weibel, Reed Johnson, and Stockbridge. Lots of different options there. Those are all single gender buildings. The rooms have pretty good room size. I think you're going to see the floor plan of those rooms are going to give you a little bit more elbow room than some of our other locations. And so they tend to be pretty popular. They've all, with the exception of Bergham, they've all had recently updated bathrooms inside. So even though they're in a community location, as far as you walk a short walk down the hallway to the community location, once you enter that bathroom space, there are several, but it's just like what I imagine your bathroom space at home is like, in that you go in, you close the door, floor to ceiling door, totally enclosed, self-contained, all by yourself kind of location. So I think sometimes people have a misunderstanding of what community restroom means. But for us, that's what we offer in our traditional, our low-rise residence halls. We also have suite style spaces, high-rise residence halls, and we call them high-rises because they have, depending on the building, either 6 or even 9 stories in them. Those are Cater, Severinsen, Syme, Pavick, and Thompson Hall. And so all of those residence halls have, for the most part, 2 double rooms that share a common bath, shower, foyer area. There is an asterisk by PAVIC. That is because we anticipate that PAVIC will be offline for the upcoming academic year. We plan to do a full renovation in PAVIC, and in order to do that, it needs to be vacant over the course of next summer, next fall, spring, and the following summer, so that we'll be ready to open up the fall after that. Students that stick around after their first year have a chance to live in some of our apartment-style residence halls. Those include Niskanen Residence Hall and Matthew Living Learning Centers. Those locations are reserved for non-first year students, and they stay pretty full. So it's pretty popular that students will live on campus, not only their first year, but they will continue on campus for another 2 or another year, or sometimes 2 or 3 or even 4 years after that, depending on the academic. Sounds good. Timelines tend to be very important for new incoming students. And so here's just a brief overview of what we offer in residence life. Starting in October, so that means last October, a couple of months ago, students are able to begin submitting their housing applications, and those are all done online. As soon as a student submits their application, it puts them in line for room selection. So you are able to log into your housing portal and see not only that you've submitted the app, but it will tell you what time and date you are set to select your residence hall space. Starting in December, we just opened this up a couple of days ago. Students are able to utilize My College Roomie. That's a third-party software that we contract with for students to be able to create a profile, answer some questions, upload a photo, connect with some other students, and that environment will actually recommend some matches based on some of your likes and interests and the way that you've responded to some of the different questions. And so then students are able to communicate. Overwhelmingly, students utilize Snapchat for that, some Instagram. I'm assuming there's a few that actually text or call, but that's the way students begin to connect with one another starting in December. Anyone who is interested in living in one of our learning communities, so we have 2 for the upcoming academic year. So one is the health professions learning community, and then one is the engineering learning community. So students who are interested in that can check out our website about how to get their foot in the door for that and indicate an interest in that. So that happens in February. And then in March, students actually go in and select their rooms. So students are able to, based on when they submitted their housing application at the beginning, students are able to go in and look at the inventory that we have. And just like we talked about the previous slide here, a lot of different kinds of learning environments, different kinds of living environments that students can choose. And so students are able to just assign themselves and their preferred roommates to a space on campus. So that's kind of a brief overview of residence life. Let me talk just briefly now about dining, and then we'll have some time for some questions at the end. Just like we have a residence life experience, there's a dining experience as well. On campus, we have 3 different dining centers. We have 5 different coffee shops. We have a whole food court downstairs in Memorial Union. And so the odds are, if you're the average college student and you have a craving for any particular kind of food, the odds are you can find it here on campus. And so I'll share with you what some of those different things are. First, I'll talk about the different kinds of meal plans that we have available for incoming first-year students. We have 2. One is a 7-day meal plan that gives unlimited access to any dining center anytime it's open. Students are able to just check in at the main counter as they walk in, and there are a wide variety of hot food items, prepare it yourself items, different stations, if you will, that have different kinds of food at them, different styles or different, you think there's one spot for pizza, and there's another spot for sort of a home style meal, and there's another spot for grill, chicken sandwiches and burgers and that sort of thing. There's a griddle where students can actually make their own food if they want to whip up an omelet, or students want to make their own waffle or that sort of thing. So wide variety. Overwhelmingly, students choose that 7-day plan. There is a 5-day meal plan that still offers unlimited access, but that's only Monday through Friday. And if you do the math between the two, it comes down to about $14 per weekend difference. So even if you're going to go home on some weekends, when you kind of put pen to paper and figure out the difference between the two, most students choose that 7-day fully unlimited meal plan. Like I mentioned earlier, anyone on a meal plan can go to any dining center anytime they're open. So students can choose from the West Dining Center, and you'll notice that students at NDSU tend to shorten the West Dining Center to just West, or shorten it further just to WDC. The Residence Dining Center is an option, and of course that gets condensed to the RDC. And the Union Dining Center downstairs in Memorial Union, most students refer to that as the UDC. And then a lot of times, once you've been here for a few weeks, you'll catch on that students just call it the W, the R, or the U, and they don't even put the DC in with that shortened name. So just some things that you might find interesting and that might be applicable to you. In the West Dining Center, there is one particular station there that is called Clean Eats. And Clean Eats is always going to be peanut free, and also free from the top 8 allergens, the most common allergens that people experience. And so students can stop by there anytime, and they always know that whatever they get from there is going to be free from those top 8 things. But it's still really good food at that particular station. Just because they've taken out the gluten, for example, doesn't mean that it's not tasty. It's very good. And a lot of students go through Clean Eats even if they don't have a particular dietary need or restriction. Students can always look online and see what the menus are. You can, even though you don't currently have a meal plan, if you want to scope out and see the different things that are offered even now, you can just visit the website and view those things. Students also have full access to a dietitian. So if you do have any particular dietary needs or dietary restrictions, or maybe you've just decided you want to eat more lean protein and less saturated fat. If you've decided that you want to do that, you have full access to a dietitian. You can schedule an appointment, sit down. There's no additional costs. There's no additional fees of any sort. Sit down and work out some different menu items that might work for you. We also have a food court downstairs in Memorial Union. These places are not covered under the dining plan, but they're still very popular for students to swing by and grab food from time to time. So there's a taco place and a pizza place, and it's like a sub sandwich kind of place, and a burger place, and then a Panda Express with Chinese food. So again, if you have a particular kind of craving for a particular kind of food, the odds are you can find that somewhere on campus at some point in time. We also have plenty of caffeine. So if you are a coffee drinker, know that we have a variety of different coffee shops on campus, including a full service Caribou in Memorial Union. We also have what's called the Bison Beanery. That is located within one of our dining centers. It's in the Residence Dining Center. So if you're on a meal plan, you're welcome to go to Caribou, and you're welcome to just keep swiping your card and paying every single time that you go to Caribou. If your parents pay that bill, they may ask you to stop, but you're welcome to do that at any time. If you just want coffee, and if you want the coffee shop feel, and you want some of those, the espressos and Americanos and the lattes and the ones with the fancy foam on them and all that, you can get all of those things in the Bison Beanery in the Residence Dining Center, and it's just part of your meal plan. So students find that an extremely popular place to sit and study, have a cup of coffee or two, visit with friends, play board games, just hang out. Just know that that's included as part of that dining plan. And that's it. That's a brief overview of residence life and a brief overview of dining. I believe Michaela has a handful of questions. And so I'm happy to respond to those that may have come in by the chat, or if anyone else has a question, I'm happy to respond to those at this time.
Perfect. Thank you, Ian, for that good information. So I have a couple questions students already sent in, so I can start with some of those. But
Okay.
those of you that are here, definitely feel free to either unmute yourself and ask a question or throw one in the chat and we'll make sure we get that answered for you. Some of the ones I already have are, what type of events are held in the residence halls?
Good question. If you can think of it, it's offered in a residence hall. And so what I mean by that is there are programs and activities that are very much just social in nature. An ice cream social. Everybody come hang out and eat some ice cream. Pumpkin carving around Halloween time. Making a tie-dyed shirt. If you want to make a tie-dyed shirt, just show up and we've got all the craft stuff and you can, get to making a new garment of some sort. Picture frames or plants. I know that they've had things where you paint a little, a pot and put a plant in it, and then you take that back to your room. So all sorts of just get to know you kind of things, icebreaker sort of things, hang out with folks, sort of low key sorts of things. Lots of options for those. There's also a lot of options related to things that are specifically academic, math study groups or sessions. Opportunities to connect with others in your major, so there'll be a mixer of some sort or a get to know you activity of some sort, but it's specifically targeted maybe people that are in mechanical engineering so that they can get to know one another a little bit better. And then also within the residence halls, each residence hall has a hall government. And so a lot of you may be involved in some sort of a student government or student council kind of idea in high school. That idea and those sorts of activities and involvement can continue at NDSU in the residence hall setting. So you can be involved in hall government where you get a pretty significant budget to spend. You can spend it on activities, you can spend it on equipment for the residence hall, spend it on different things for students that live there. So that's just a kind of a snapshot, but just know that if there's something you want to do in a residence hall, you can find a way to put that together and make that into an activity or program for a lot of people.
And the next question, can I switch my meal plan?
Yes. If you come and you decide this meal plan that I have is not the one that I want, if you start, this is the most common, quite frankly, is students start out with a 5-day plan and they're here for about a month and they're like, should have got the 7. You can bump up to the 7 at any point during the semester. If you want to drop from the 7 to the 5, you got to do that right away at the beginning of the semester or do it in between fall and spring semesters. So there are some options to switch. And so again, overwhelmingly students choose the 7. Overwhelmingly students who do change go from the 5 to the 7. But just know that if you need to switch from the 7 to the 5, you can do that either at semester or you can do it right away at the beginning of the semester.
Awesome. And then another one on dining. Do you have a favorite meal on campus?
Oh, my favorite meal is probably not going to be the same as most incoming students. I think what's going to be popular, particularly for new incoming students, the orange chicken goes over very, very well in the dining centers. I tend to be more of once in a while, there's like meatloaf, mashed potatoes, green beans, kind of a home style sort of. That tends to be maybe toward what I gravitate towards. Definitely that orange chicken is popular. The old standby of the grilled cheese and tomato soup is also extremely popular as well. Students wait in line, well, not a long time, but it gets crowded for sure when that's being served.
Awesome. And then a couple of questions on housing. So if I'm not sure where I'm going to college yet, should I still apply for housing?
Absolutely. Yep. When you submit your housing application, there is a $100 room reservation fee. That money just goes toward the amount due once you move in. If you decide you're not going to come, you've got all the way until March 1st to cancel without any penalty. And so there's plenty of opportunity as you're still kind of deciding, am I going to, am I not going to, go ahead and apply. You've got nothing to lose. And then that way you'll be in line to select a room when that time comes. You'll also then have the opportunity to log in to My College Roomie. Odds are you'll find somebody that you really like and really click with, and you're like, yeah, not only do I want a room with this person, right? I also want to come to NDSU to be able to make that happen. So I would absolutely encourage people to go ahead and do that, just knowing that that is refundable as long as you give us plenty of notice.
And then another one on housing. What happens if I don't like my roommate?
It doesn't happen often, to be honest. Most students are able to match up with somebody in My College Roomie, and so they already kind of have somebody that they know or that they feel they're going to get along with. A lot of students actually don't match up in My College Roomie. We have a pretty significant number, probably 25% of our students don't match up with anybody at all. But either way, whether you specifically match up and select a room together, or you just kind of randomly end up with someone, in either circumstance, we utilize what we call a roommate success plan. It's been our experience that if students are going to kind of butt heads a little bit, if students are not going to get along well, it's typically because they haven't talked about or worked through some basic expectations. Like, if Michaela and I are roommates, is it okay, Michaela, if I eat the food that you have in your fridge? Or is that like just for you? Or if you want to borrow my whatever, if you want to borrow my skateboard, right? You need to ask, or is that just okay for you to grab and go? Or which one of us is going to be the one that takes out the trash? Or are we going to do laundry on a regular basis? Or is yours kind of going to pile up and I do mine every couple of days? Those are the kinds of things that students tend to disagree on. And so we sit down with students at the onset of each semester and we work through some of those things together, and we set some basic expectations for each other. And so that opens the lines of communication, and then it sets expectations for the things that students are, if they're going to argue, that they're most likely going to argue about. So all that to say, there's not a tremendous number of students that just end up in a situation where they're like, I cannot live with this person. This does not work. I'm not adjusting well. So if that does occur, then we do have opportunities for people to relocate, for people to move, people to switch rooms, switch roommates. With 3,200 students in residence halls, part of my job is helping people shuffle around. And there's always somebody that wants to go somewhere else because it's closer to their class, or they found a different friend they want to live near, or they'd rather be in this kind of building versus that kind of building, or they'd rather be closer to something else on campus. So people shuffle around all the time. And so it's usually pretty easy, if there's a need for somebody to relocate based on a roommate situation, do we have some other options available for them? Long answer to a short question.
All right. And then I have one more of my questions. So if you guys that are here on the Zoom have anything, feel free to put it in the chat. But my last question is, how can I meet other students like me in my residence hall?
What's the old saying that my mom used to say? To have a friend, you need to be a friend. If you just sit in your room, remember we talked about those at the very onset when I said think about two different people that move into the same residence hall on the same day. If you just sit in your room, you're not going to make the connections that you will if you get out of your room. We encourage students to keep their doors propped open because just simply walking down a hallway, you see more people. And the more people you see, the more people you interact with. And the more people you interact with, the more people you get to know. And the more people you get to know, the more connections you have. And so we encourage students, just if you are going to stay in your room, at least leave your door open, at least leave it propped open. And you'll see the same people. You'll get in a rhythm, right, over time with class and with going to the dining center and with joining clubs and activities and that sort of thing. So that would be my first recommendation. Second recommendation I would have is to seek out some of those clubs or organizations that you're interested in. And not only will you meet people, you'll meet people that have the same interest. So if you have an interest in, playing chess, join the chess club. If you're interested in computer science, join the computer science club. If you're interested in knitting, join the knitting club. One cool thing about NDSU is that if there is some sort of club that doesn't exist, you can create it. I actually worked with students this semester that there was no bicycling club on campus. And so they approached me and they said, we really want a bicycling club. And so all you got to do is you got to get half a dozen people that are interested in bicycling. You fill out some forms. You put together, you need a president and a treasurer, I think it is, for your organization, and some very basic bylaws. And you've got a club, an officially recognized NDSU club. So those are just some of the things that come to mind as far as meeting other people. I think any of those would work well.
Thank you. So seeing no other questions, I think that covers everything. Thank you to those of you who joined on Zoom and those of you who are watching this after. If anyone thinks of any questions having to do with residence life or dining, you can feel free to reach out to anyone in residence life or me. I'm Michaela Bennett. Like I said, you can find me on the admission webpage and I can make sure to answer your question or get you in contact with someone who can. But thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks.